now, so we can share with anybody who's not able to make it. But Nick, whenever you want to start, you can go ahead.
Absolutely. I was just going to ask, so do you think it would make sense to wait a couple of minutes just for any stragglers, or do you want me to get started and we can kind of go from there?
Yeah, I think go ahead. We have a nice number in here, and people trickle in, and yeah, I think you should go ahead and get started.
Okay. Yeah, no, not a problem at all. I can definitely get started. So, I guess probably what would make the most sense from here is for me to just kind of provide you all with a quick introduction of myself. And if David's on the other side there, I'll let him kind of, introduce himself as well. So my name is Nick Helch. I'm a campus recruiter and university programs coordinator here at Esri. I will have been at Esri for 3 years this May. So I've been here and doing my job for quite a little bit of time. So I've gotten to know our hiring needs across the company and what we look for different divisions, and I'll kind of cover that a little bit further on. But with that being said, my information sessions are pretty easy going. So I mean, if you have a question at any point, feel free to type it into the chat box, or if you want to unmute it and just kind of chirp in, that works as well. But it looks like David is here. I'll let him kind of introduce himself, and then we'll kind of progress through the slideshow here.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Beth. So my name is David Watkins. I am a product manager at Esri. I have been at Esri for 22 years. So you said 3 years was a long time. 3 years is actually nothing at Esri. We have many people who've been here longer than I have. So we've been around a long time as a company, especially a company in the tech industry. So if you have any questions about Esri or the history of Esri, maybe I can help out with those questions. So I'm going to be showing you some demos of some software a little later on.
Absolutely. And then David, do you quickly want to share a little bit on what a product manager does?
Sure. So at Esri, it's kind of an all-encompassing role, but the way traditional product managers work is we work as a kind of a liaison between the customers and the software development team. So we spend a lot of time with customers, talking to them, getting feedback from them on what they would like to see our software do, or the things they would like us to work on. And then I work with the development team, kind of explaining to them what the customers are asking for, and then I kind of form this little triangle between us and our marketing team, because then I go back to the marketing team and explain to them, this is what we built. This is how you can go back and explain to the customers why we built it the way we did. So that's kind of my role. At Esri, we all kind of wear a lot of hats. So I do different things within that group. I manage a product, but I also manage what we call a theme, which is mapping and cartography. So I do all the product management for cartography across many products as well. And it's just kind of how we work things out, but it works really well for us. So
awesome.
That's what I do.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing. I just kind of like to get that out there. That way, folks have a little bit of a better idea and can, formulate some questions as I talk here. If they decide they want to, take a break from listening to my voice. So we'll kind of go from there. So with that being said, we are Esri. I've got my first slide up here. I think it's pretty cool. Normally, most people just kind of skip past the first slide. I usually do too. But one photo that I really like to point out is this one on the bottom left. It kind of looks like the trees, and that is actually a photo that was taken on our campus out in Redlands. And I think that's just a really cool photo, just with like the different colors and kind of how it looks a little bit dark, but yet really fun with the sun coming through. So a really beautiful campus. I'll show you a little bit more pictures as we get through here, but just kind of like to point that one out. So as we start to go from there, I'll first start off with, Esri. What we are is we're the world leader in GIS software development. Founded in 1969, which I'll kind of get to a little bit further here, but we have more than 1 million users worldwide. Truly have a great majority of the market share out there. And in fact, I believe I was told that we have roughly 40% of the global market share. And so if I'm wrong on that, David, and you're listening, definitely feel free to correct me. But if you don't if you don't know, not a big deal. So we make the ArcGIS platform, and so ArcGIS platform now consists of, ArcMap, ArcGIS Pro, ArcGIS Online, a variety of different mobile applications, and quite honestly, that's just the tip of the iceberg. We've got, applications for a variety of different industries and a variety of different solutions for, just for our customers to enable them to be a little bit more successful here. So my assumption, you're all in the GIS program here at Penn State Online, so you have a pretty good idea. You should have a pretty good idea of what GIS is, or at least I hope you do. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here. I do have a cool video coming up here. I'm happy to share it, but truthfully, it doesn't even hold a candle to the one that David will be showing a little bit later. And unfortunately, we need volume for this one. So, if you want to stick around, at the very, very end, I'm happy to kind of share that and go back here so we can just kind of bring it up. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and skip past it. So going from there, when you actually start to look at Esri as an organization, we've got about 3,800 employees. We've been around since 1969. We've got 3,800 employees. And so really, when you look at those numbers, we're not like an Airbnb. We're not like a Twitter where we grow exponentially and have, ramped up to 100,000 employees just because we can. No, we've actually been, our growth has actually been carefully managed over the years to make sure that, what we're doing is we're growing in a stable environment and making sure that, everything that we do, we can, we've got enough employees to, but we're not overstepping our boundaries. On top of the 3,800, I do like to also mention that our turnover rate for a software company is actually very low. And the reason I say software company is because technically that is the industry that we are in, despite creating GIS software and being very prevalent in the GIS world. So, on average, you regularly see a turnover rate of about, every 3 years, 3 to 4 years within most software organizations. And Esri, I want to say, is sitting at about 7 years or so, which I think is fantastic. Annually, we grow. Usually we hire anywhere from, 4 to, 600 employees, give or take, per year. We usually lose anywhere from 2 to 400 of those. So we're usually growing at about 1 to 200 a year, and I will say that number has grown over the past couple of years as we do seem to be adding more than we are losing. So really cool when you start to look at it from an organization standpoint. So, as I mentioned multiple times now, started in 1969, still privately held and debt-free, which I think is really something to be said about the organization. Privately held and debt-free basically means that we're able to invest our resources and our capital back into the organization where we see fit. If we decided tomorrow that we wanted to invest all of our, capital into, augmented reality and virtual reality, we could do that without having to worry about, shareholders who would be holding us back because maybe they don't find that type of a migration, successful for the industry. Going from there, we are headquartered in Redlands, California. Redlands is about 80 miles east of Los Angeles, and I'll talk about it a little bit more on this next slide. We do have 10 regional offices and 10 research and development centers. As far as regional offices, I'll do my best here, but we have Portland, Oregon, Redlands, California, Denver, Colorado, San Antonio, Texas, St. Louis, Missouri, Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is where I work out of. David works out of our Redlands headquarters. Charlotte, North Carolina, Boston, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Portland, Maine, and then Olympia, Washington. I think I might have forgotten there. So that is, a pretty close, if not all of them, list of our regional offices. As far as research and development centers, we do have those across the world. And so, Abu Dhabi and Edinburgh, and it's either in Hong Kong or Beijing. I can never remember. I want to say it's Hong Kong.
Beijing.
Beijing. Oh, gosh darn it. I was
Beijing.
close.
You're close.
I will remember that.
We do have a distributor in Hong Kong, though.
Okay, maybe that's what I was thinking of. David, what other research and development centers do we have?
Zurich, one of the biggest. Portland, Oregon, we have one there.
Okay.
And what am I forgetting? Melbourne, Australia. Maybe you mentioned Melbourne.
I have not, but that's a good one.
Yeah, we've got a big one there. What am I forgetting?
Fantastic. And if we don't know, that's no big deal. I thought I figured you would have a couple more than what I have with your 22 years of experience.
Sure. Yeah, I can't think of any others right now. So
Okay, not a big deal. So, and really what I was kind of getting at with, the research and development centers, is if you, currently live, internationally, there are opportunities for you to join Esri in one of those, research and development centers, assuming you have the right skill sets. You can also move to the US. And so there's a lot of opportunities for you to advance your career, not only, internally at Esri, which I'll talk about, but also to kind of explore maybe different portions of the world, which is really cool. So talking a little bit more about Redlands and what it really has to offer, and I'll talk, I'll give you my pitch, and then if David feels like he wants to jump in here and kind of talk a little bit more, that's not a big deal. But from what I have been there, Redlands is a town of roughly, I'd say maybe about 70,000 people or so, and it's about 60 to 80 miles east of Los Angeles. You're about an hour and a half away from, surfing, in Southern California, an hour and a half away from skiing and snowboarding in the wintertime, up in the mountains, about an hour and a half away from, hiking in the desert, which is really amazing, an hour and a half away from shopping in downtown Los Angeles, or kind of, going through the whole Beverly Hills type of mentality, which is also equally as cool. So there's really a lot to do within an hour and a half of Redlands. Now, when you look at Redlands, despite being in Southern California, you kind of get this idea that, hey, you're mixed up in the city, and we're actually far enough out of Los Angeles that really allows us to have our own unique community and identity as far as the town. There's a lot of really great restaurants. It's a smaller community to where you really get this sense of family. And when I say a sense of family, Esri is the employer of choice within Redlands, and so it's very common to go out to different restaurants, or to go to different events around town and to see other Esri employees, which really not only brings work not only brings work together, but it also helps you build this family of friends that you can maintain those relationships for a lifetime, which is really cool. David, do you want to add anything just from actually living out there?
From my experience, so yeah, I've been here for 22 years, like I said, and lived in Redlands the majority of that time. I did live in Riverside, which is a community just 20 minutes from here. I lived there for about 3 years at one point in my life. But the thing I really like about Redlands the most is it's got this small town feel to it, even though you're located really close to the city. So you still have this kind of experience where if you want to go to a concert, any concert is going to come through LA, and yet you can still have this really small town feel to where you live and how you interact with everyone. It's really nice. Also, the weather's not bad. um so that's one thing I'll tell you. The weather's usually pretty nice here, so that's a nice thing about it.
Absolutely, probably a little bit nicer. Although I will say right now up in Minneapolis, it's absolutely gorgeous. We're sitting at about 35, 40 degrees. In Southern California, that's remarkably chilly. But compared to the -5 and 10 degrees that we've had the last couple of weeks, it's just balmy out there. I'm surprised I haven't seen someone wearing shorts just yet. Just yet. So, but yeah. So Redlands is truly a really great place to start a family. Start a family if you want to go down that route, or get involved in a lot of different activities. So definitely would recommend it. And truthfully, I guess I will also mention, um, as you start, if you decide you want to join Esri for your career, I really suggest starting in Redlands initially, just to truly get the Esri experience, to try to understand what it's all about. Working out of a regional office myself, I still understand what Esri is all about, but I don't get to feel it every day like someone who works in Redlands does get that opportunity too. So I would advise you to maybe put in 2 to 3 years there, and then if you want to transition and work out of an international office, or a remote office, and that's a possibility for the particular role that you join, then I would recommend going that route. So Esri has distributors in 150 countries with an internationally diverse workforce of 554 nationals from 67 countries. Now, I normally don't read right off a slide, but I don't know any other way to present this information without reading it right off the slide there. So ultimately what this means is Esri's technology is genuinely global. It is being distributed to a variety of different countries. It's impacting millions of people worldwide. We bring in an internationally diverse workforce, 554 nationals. And truly what that means for Esri's technology is we're not just creating a technology that's local to Southern California or even to, the United States. We're bringing in people from Africa, from, Asia and Europe and Australia and South America, all across the world, and every single person has a different life experience. And when they bring that in to our technology, we're truly creating a platform that is global and impacts and helps solve world problems, which is really exciting. A side benefit of that is you always have someone to go get, fun food with. We have an Indian restaurant very close to, or a Thai restaurant, I'm sorry, very close to campus there, and you can always find someone who's willing to go get food with you. So definitely really a diverse workforce, and a lot of brilliant ideas come from that. When you look at Esri, and I will point out this picture in the background, that is actually a photo of our campus. My belief, if I have it right, is off to the left is our development building, and then right off to the right there is a main road that goes through campus. And I could be wrong on that. I'm hoping I'm not, but I may be. But with that being said, that is a photo of our campus. And when you look at it, the way I kind of describe it is Esri's architecture is kind of like environmentally contemporary, meaning it really blends in with the environment. And in fact, I've talked to some students. I actually talked to a girl who was at Oregon State University. And I said, "Oh yeah, our headquarters is in Redlands." And she's like, "What? I grew up in Redlands. I had no idea that Esri was in Redlands." So it really blends in with the environment, which is really amazing. But on the inside, it's a very open and airy feel, which really, is conducive to collaboration and a lot of, fun and, open talking opportunities for, colleagues to get together and chat about different projects. When I say a campus environment as well, what that ultimately means is that we have different buildings across campus that specialize in different, areas of the organization. We have some areas that are a little bit more focused in professional services. We have our development buildings, we have our marketing buildings, and so on and so forth. And so, it really kind of creates this campus feel because you see people walking between the different buildings. And so you're not just always confined to, per se, a size skyscraper, if you will. We do have casual dress. With that being said, I mean, normally for me, especially being up here in Minneapolis, I'll wear a sweater and a pair of jeans most every day to work. Out in California, it's pretty common to wear, a pair of jeans and maybe a polo or a t-shirt. No issues there. We just ask that you don't wear, shorts in the summertime. And I'm not too terribly familiar on the flip-flop policy, but I would venture to say we probably try to encourage you to avoid flip-flops as well. Could be wrong on that though. Flexible work schedules. So Esri does have flexible work schedules. And what I ultimately mean by that is you have flexibility. And not only if you need to take off during the day, there's been multiple times where I've needed to run my car and get the oil changed or, get something else fixed. And, it's like, hey, my car just, a check engine soon light came on. I need to run my car into the into the dealership today. Is that a problem? And my manager, he's like, nope, just, try to stay available, respond to emails, and just, update your calendar. And so there's a lot of flexibility in that. Outside of that, you also have the flexibility in that, maybe you like to sleep in a little bit and you want to come in at say 9 or 9:30 and you want to stay a little bit later. That's a possibility. Maybe you're an early riser and you like to get to work at 7:30, potentially even 6:30 and leave a little bit earlier. That's also a possibility. Normally what we say for that is simply just work with your manager to try to get on a consistent schedule so that they know when to expect you. We do want we encourage employees to be there during, those core hours of maybe say 10 to 2, 10 to 3, somewhere in there for meetings and meeting with customers and that kind of stuff. We'd have an on-site cafe with the Starbucks bar. Our on-site cafe is pretty fantastic. You've got, pizza, you've got sandwiches, you've got a grill, you've got salads that are there every day. But then we also have rotating days to where it's maybe like stir fry on Wednesday or Taco Tuesday, something along those lines. In a Starbucks bar, maybe you have a 2 o'clock lull every afternoon. I know myself, I do between 2 and 3. I'm a little bit pointless, but with that being said, maybe I want to go over and pick up a cup of coffee or a shot of espresso to kind of help me, pick myself up and to refocus my energy. I can do that. And in fact, maybe I take 2 shots of espresso. I'm a little bit jittery. I can then, burn off some of that energy at the fitness center, which is available 24/7 to Esri employees, and that is actually on campus. So one of the unique things about Esri is truly the team culture and collaboration. Going back to what I was talking about earlier with regards to the campus, it is truly a very open, truly a very open and collaborative environment. Esri has a very flat corporate structure. So if you're looking for a type of career that's going to allow you to climb the corporate ladder, we're probably not going to be the best fit for you. And that's just me being honest. I don't want to try to, persuade you to join Esri and then not have it be a fit for you. But I mean, if you are comfortable with becoming a subject matter expert in your area, and then, helping, not only our customers, but other employees at Esri, with that, area of expertise, Esri could be a great opportunity for you. As a result of that flat corporate structure, what you really see is there are no barriers between trying to get a hold of different people. If I wanted to walk into the director of business development's office tomorrow because I had a question that I needed to address with him, I can definitely do that. I don't have to go through a variety of different levels to get to the director of business development, which is really kind of exciting. It also creates this open environment to where you can always explore and get involved in different types of projects and learn more about the technology. Now, one thing I will additionally say about the culture is Jack, the president of our company, really built this organization on, creating technology that truly makes a difference. And you can feel that in the halls and when you're in Redlands. Whoops, I'm sorry. So you can really feel that around campus, which is really exciting. As you're walking through the halls, there's this passion, this excitement, and it really allows you to dive in and really invest a lot of time and excitement into your work. David, do you want to add anything about what the culture and collaboration is on your specific team?
Sure. It's interesting. We work in teams very much. Like Nick said, it is a very flat structure. There's not really, one boss who then has 2 bosses under them, and then they have 2 bosses under them. Everybody is almost treated as an individual in many ways, and everyone kind of has their expertise that they develop as they build their career, and we encourage that. And so you end up on teams, and quite often you're on many teams at the same time. So I might have a team that I work on with related to product management. I also have several teams I work on related to development. So I work on the page layout team and the pro team. At the same time, I also do product management for all of pro. And what happens is you end up working on all these teams, and everyone kind of just pitches in where their expertise is. It's actually a really nice way to work, and it's one of the reasons why you were explaining you can walk into the director of business development or any of the director's offices at any point, and typically between you and that director, there's maybe only 1 or 2 management levels. So you're very close to them all the time, and it is a nice kind of working environment that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I'm sorry. Oh, I apologize. I was just talking to Beth a little bit, and she let me know that we have an hour. I was expecting 2 hours. So I will try to kind of get through this very quickly. So I think what I will do is kind of buzz through the next couple of slides, and then kind of quickly run through the different teams here at Esri. And then if anybody wants to stick around for my career advice portion, we can definitely do that. And then I'll let David kind of join in, do a quick presentation. Then we'll leave roughly about 20 minutes or so for questions at the end, and maybe we can end at about an hour and a half, unless of course you want to stay a little bit longer, and then we can talk about the career advice portion. My apologies on that. Okay, so continuing from there. Professional growth and personal growth is also a huge thing for us here at Esri. Whether that's, we at Esri, we have a fellowship scholarship that allows our employees to go back to school and maybe pursue a master's degree in an area that that they did not originally get their degree in. Maybe you're getting your master's degree right now currently in GIS, which my assumption is that a lot of you are, and you want to get, transition your career a little bit more into the programming side of things. We have a fellowship scholarship that allows you to do that, and that's 100% paid for by Esri. We also have tuition reimbursement, if you want to take a quick class and just kind of brush up on some different technologies. We have a comprehensive reference library on campus. Maybe you really like to learn just on a one-to-one level, which is really exciting as well. And then finally, internally, we have a lot of individual classes like, 5 Habits of Highly Effective People and, Crucial Conversations to help you build up your communication abilities. A lot of these, classes that we have internally at Esri are also not focused on just your professional life, but also your personal life. The goal is to help you become a better person in all facets of life, which is really exciting. So not only do we have a lot of established opportunities for, professional and personal growth, but when you actually look at the jobs themselves, you're able to really kind of, as David mentioned, you're able to get involved in a lot of different things, which helps you really explore some of your passions and helps you learn more about different areas of the organization. You also, I worked probably 4 years before I joined Esri, and I learned more in the first 6 months of working at Esri than I did at all of my previous jobs combined, and it wasn't close. So you're always being, exposed to new challenges and new ideas, especially because we're in the technology industry. Everything is always dynamic; it's always changing. Newer technologies are coming out, and so that really allows you to not only, be proficient at what you're currently doing, but also be challenged for your career, which really enables a rewarding career for you. Going from there, as you start to look at Esri as a career and maybe some of your long-term ideas, you start to look at benefits package. And Esri has a really pretty good benefits package. And probably the biggest benefit that we have is Esri pays your monthly premium for our mental, or not mental, but for your medical, dental, and vision coverage. And so I was talking to one of my previous colleagues, and he was telling me that he pays, $1,600 for that benefit himself. And I will say that's not only for you, but that's for your significant other as well as all of your children. Esri pays the monthly premium, so that is a huge benefit for you. We also have paid vacation, sick time, and holidays. Now, one of the things that makes Esri very unique is Esri pays all of their employees hourly. That's me, that's David, that's our managers, that's our managers' managers. And the reason we do that is because we want you to get paid for how many hours you work. So if you work 45 hours a week, you're going to make a little bit more. I would say that the average work week is roughly about 45 hours. And in fact, very infrequently do people not have enough work to keep them. And in fact, I would almost say never does someone not have enough work to keep them busy for 40 hours a week. Um, that that being paid hourly also allows you to then bank anything that you work over 40. So if you work over 40, then you can bank that time and you can use that at a later time as, potentially vacation, or, maybe you want to take a trip and you want to, use up all of your PTO and then go travel abroad for a month or something. You can use that time for that. So again, paid vacation, we have a very, pretty typical paid vacation, benefit. You can negotiate that, through the process of getting hired. Sick time is fairly consistent. Holidays, I feel like we have bank holidays. It seems like I get a lot more of them than what my friends do, so I'm certainly not complaining about that. So you definitely have a lot of flexibility to take some time off and really kind of have that flexible schedule. Life insurance, it's pretty straightforward. I'm not going to talk too much about that. 401k and profit sharing. So Esri does match 6% on your 401k, and you have the opportunity to contribute to that in either a Roth or traditional manner. As far as profit sharing goes, that does go into your 401k, which instead of being paid out in a bonus is beneficial because I myself would probably spend that money on something foolishly. So I'm glad it's helping me retire. So that is just kind of some of the benefits that Esri has. Now, I will say when you actually look at Esri in our campus, we're not like a Google. And the reason is because we want you to go home and we want you to spend time with your families. And in fact, I was talking to some of our technical support analysts, and they were telling me, yeah, I got really into this project, wanted to stay, and my manager actually came up to me and told me to go home because I had been working for too long. So it really is a great company for work-life balance and kind of going from there. Okay, so as we kind of start to look at the organization from an overarching standpoint, I usually like to tell it from the idea behind our technology and how the ArcGIS platform goes and gets distributed. So first and foremost, you create our technology, or you develop our technology. And so within creating our technology, we have two teams. We have product engineering and we have software development. Now, our developers usually code, I would say, 80 to 90% of their day. Our core technology is built on C++. With that being said, Java and Python are our next two biggest programming languages, and then JavaScript for the website of things. Um, our developers normally come from a computer science background, and our software development teams are focused to our research and development centers and mostly in Redlands. Product engineering kind of acts as that technical business analyst between our developers as well as our customers, kind of helping our developers understand the way our technology needs to work, the way it needs to function, the way it needs to look. But product engineering also does our testing, releasing, documentation, QA. In some of our product engineering roles, you'll see, cartographers. You'll see them working on building specific tools or prototyping different tools. So you see a lot of, overlap between those. Product engineering, what you see is a little bit more GIS-based work, and so you see, as far as a background, a lot of computer science and GIS or geography backgrounds. Whereas again, development is very similar to just computer science. Now, when you look at product engineering, a lot of those roles, and in fact, I would say probably 90% of those roles are going to be housed as well in the Redlands campus. Once we've created our technology, then now we need to distribute our technology. And going back to that idea of getting paid hourly, that includes our sales staff. Our sales staff is not paid commission. What they do is they just get paid that hourly, which takes a lot of the pressure off the sales cycle, and in fact allows our business development representatives to be, more of an advisor and there for our customers, as opposed to being, a pushy salesman and trying to oversell products that don't need to be sold to those customers. Now, when it comes to business development, there are normally three main roles that you're going to find yourself into. The first one is going to be an account executive, and the account executive is someone who, reaches out. They're kind of like our hunters. They're actively looking for new customers who have potentially never worked with Esri's technology in the past. It is a little bit more hands-off on our technology because it is more invested in the sales cycle. So we have our account executives who go out and then they find that customer. And then they bring that in. And so they bring it in, they start working with that customer. They get that customer warmed up to the point where they want to learn a little bit more, in which case they bring in a solution engineer who then provides demos. And then architects the solution. So once they provide that demo, the customer gets interested, said, yeah, let's go ahead and do this. That solution engineer will then architect the solution and basically work with our professional services team, which I'll talk about here in just a minute, to implement that technology into their environment. Now, once that solution has been implemented, that customer is off to the races on working on whatever GIS projects they want it to do. Then at that point, that relationship is then passed off to our account manager, who basically maintains that relationship for the longevity of their, tenure with Esri. Now, there is a little bit of overlap with some, positions, based on the team that you join, but in theory, that is how it is structured. So once we've sold our technology, our customers are out there working on it, they're doing their first project, and they find out, hey, holy cow, I don't know what I'm doing on this. I need a little bit of help. In which case they would call into our technical support team. Now, our technical support team is truly a great place to start at the organization. In fact, we see a lot of people who start here and then maybe transition into software products or solution engineering or professional services after a couple of years. And the reason being is that technical support is designed to be a feeder program for the rest of the company. Now, when you think of technical support, a lot of people just think of, calling into a call center and then you have the person immediately ask you, have you restarted your computer? It seems like a pain in the rear. And, while that is, in some cases true, at Esri, what you really start seeing is you're working with customers anywhere from city governments to, college students to organizations like NASA, the Department of Defense, or even private organizations or public organizations like Starbucks. And in fact, I was talking to one of our technical support analysts who said that they helped NASA one morning and Starbucks that afternoon, which I think is really cool. Now, the way I perceive and look at technical support is our customers are calling in, they're telling you what project they're working on, what they've done up to that point, and then asking you to help them solve that. And so you're essentially becoming a GIS analyst for that organization. So you do become, very proficient with our technology. Finally, we have our professional services division. And when it comes to professional services, that is going to be our internal consulting team. So that's working directly with our customers on, geospatial analysis or cartographic design or product engineering or, technical advising, again, the implementation and configuration of our technology. So there's a lot of different things that you can do within professional services. Those projects can range anywhere from, a couple of weeks all the way up to, several years in length. So if you really enjoy, a variety of different projects, professional services would be a good fit for you. So quickly running back through professional services as far as backgrounds go, we normally see a lot of geography majors, computer science majors, and then a couple of business majors find their way in there. Um, Professional services is more of a flexible role. So if you want to work outside of Redlands, then that is a stronger possibility. Looking at its technical support, that is very, very heavily invested in GIS degrees or geography degrees. And then technical support, there's going to be two main offices. That's going to be Charlotte, North Carolina, and Redlands, California. And then business development, there's a lot of flexibility, as well out there, basically, as far as where you want to work, and geography background, computer science, a variety of different backgrounds, really, when it comes to business development. Now, I will quickly kind of bust through, and in fact, I'm not going to talk too much about the summer internship program. It is full for this year, and I will say I'm going to provide my contact information at the end here. So if you are curious about the internship program for next year, my first suggestion is, or my first tidbit of information is, it is paid, first and foremost, and then secondly, the internship program you need to start applying for in September, October. And then, if you want to learn a little bit more information, certainly reach out to me and we can set up a time to chat. One program that I would encourage most everybody to apply to is the UC Student Assistantship Program. And the reason this is such a fantastic program is basically what you do is you get brought out to San Diego. You do have to pay for your flight to and from, but while you're out there, Esri pays for your housing as well as a per diem. And you basically get to work half a days and then, attend the conference for free. But you help Esri, with our sessions at our store, with registration, and basically help the conference go off well. This is an opportunity for 60 students who are selected. So, I would encourage you to apply soon. But this is probably one of the most fun experiences that I have throughout the entire year. A lot of people approach this as a week-long interview with Esri, and in fact, we usually hire anywhere from 5 to 15 people from that experience. So, if Esri is in your future, you want to, kind of get a head start on it, I cannot recommend this program enough. It is truly an absolutely fantastic program. As I kind of mentioned, we will kind of talk a little bit more about career advice a little bit further towards the end here, but I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. If you guys want to ask any questions, I will definitely, address those while, David gets set up here as far as his demos go. So are there any questions? You can type them in the box, or if you want to, spit them out and chat, that works as well. I have a question. How open is Esri towards hiring mid-career professionals? We are very open. There is no, issues whatsoever with that. And in fact, we bring in, a variety of different experienced professionals. We bring in everyone from an associate's degree all the way up to a PhD, people who are at the beginning of their career to people who are close to the end of their career. So very, very open. There is, no issue whatsoever with that. And in fact, I would venture to say, even when I look at that, we see probably, I would say let's just say that we hired 500. I would say out of the 500, maybe only 125 are recent grad. The rest are experienced professionals. Another question is, in professional services, what skills are in highest demand? That is a great question. And in fact, when you start to look at professional services, it depends greatly on the role that you're most interested in. If you're looking at technical advising, the skills that we look for are, highly, proficient with the ArcGIS platform, being able to, work with customers. If you get brought into professional services as a cartographer, we want to make sure that your, cartography skills are up to par. Do you have, experience with all of the latest and greatest Adobe products? Are you working with ArcGIS Pro? A lot of those different things. So ultimately, my best suggestion for that is to go online and just kind of look at our careers page, which I know is probably the most generic answer I could have ever given. But there is so much variety in professional services that's really hard for me to actually, zone in on, one specific area. Just as an overarching idea, one thing I will say is when I look at GIS holistically across the industry, some of the most proficient or the most highly demanded uh, skills are going to be, ArcGIS platform experience. So ArcGIS Online, ArcGIS Pro, ArcMap, mobile applications. And then I would say, Python, probably R, JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. I would say, if I had to put together a skill set that would probably help you get most jobs, that would be it. I have, um, I have one more question, and then I will let David get going here. And then after that, we can definitely open it back up for more questions. So the question is, do you have any specific positions for a person with a graduate degree in landscape architecture with a focus on geodesign? The positions that I have come across on the Esri website are mostly for people with 5 to 7 years of experience. Are there any positions for fresh graduates? So that's a great question, and I'll give you an example. One of my colleagues actually came from just straight up architecture from Harvard University, and it really depends on what you want to do with your career. But he joined the organization in a little bit more of a technical role, and basically what he was doing was working on technology that was specifically designed for urban planners and architects, and he was making the platform more robust for them. So if you're interested in more on the technical side, you can definitely do that. My assumption is that you could also get involved, in a product management type of role, to where you could basically shape the future of our technology. You can get involved in, sales, to where you're selling our technology into those type of, environments. Or, lastly, you could join in as a consulting role and basically work with those type of customers and helping them do their GIS projects. So yeah, there are absolutely opportunities, for a recent grad as well as an experienced professional in that area. So with that being said, I'll let David take over here and, hold your questions until he finishes up.
Hey, thanks, Nick. Okay, so I have a question for all of you, and maybe you can use the little raise hand. How many of you have used or are familiar with ArcGIS Pro? Can you guys see the little, okay, there's one couple, quite a few of you. All right.
I see just maybe about a third to a quarter.
About a third. Okay. Okay. So thank you. That helps. I am a product manager at Esri. The product that I manage is ArcGIS Pro. It is our desktop application that is, many of you might have used ArcMap past as well. ArcGIS Pro is our latest version of desktop software. Just to give you, I'm going to give you a kind of a real quick overview of ArcGIS Pro, and then I'll get into just a couple of specifics. So that's the application I have up here. We work in projects in ArcGIS Pro, and a project can have multiple maps. Here I've got a land use map showing the different types of land use. I'm working over the city of Denver here. So the different colors show different types of land use. So I've got, yellow is commercial real estate or retail. I've got entertainment, cultural, industrial, landscape, parks are of course green, things like that. So that's one map I have in this project. I've also got a map of transit. So this has my bicycle routes. It's got my rail. This is my light rail. I can pop this up and bring up, pictures of the rail stations and information about it. I've also, in this application, combined 2D and 3D as well. So I've got the city of Denver in 3D, and I've got buildings. I can go in and zoom around. I've also added those bicycle routes in here as well. Those are the faint blue lines you're seeing in here. And you can see the mountains off in the distance since I'm in Denver. And I can do things with it like, for example, dock, panes side by side. Let's go look at that transit map next to my 3D map. And I can do things like sync these together. So I could link my views together of these two maps. Let's link them and set the scale the same. So you can see this area right here. This is the Civic Park, downtown Denver. And you can see it over here on my 2D map and my 3D map. Of course, when I tilt my 3D map up so you can see that you get a little different view here. But it allows me to work in both 2D and 3D at the same time. So I'm just going to drag that. I'm actually going to just come back to this view. So other things I can do. Let me just to kind of give you an example. I can, of course, go in and explore the map. That's what I've been doing. I also have this concept of bookmarks, which allow me to set up locations and go back to those locations. So I'll go to this area where I've got a new building that I'm proposing. And, you know, I can do things like edit my content, for example. So I'll go in and select my editing tools. And from here, let's say I want to create a new building. I'm going to create one in this vacant lot right here. And I'll go to create that. And I'll just create a new building here. And I can go in and digitize a new building, for example. And I've added this building. This building will come in, and it's been symbolized already. So this is bringing in symbology from another application that we create called City Engine. And City Engine is another application for creating these kind of fictitious 3D cities and things like that, which you can create a real city out of them, or you can create a fictitious one, which is kind of interesting. They use it for movies. So there's different movies you'll see that have been created, and they've used our software. My favorite one recently is Blade Runner 2049. They use City Engine as part of that, you know, whole Las Vegas scene that they were creating. I don't know if any of you guys have seen that, but very cool stuff you can do with that. So you can design sorts of buildings, different kinds of symbology for all sorts of 3D things, and put them together and use them to apply them to different scenes you're looking at. So that's kind of editing. I can also, of course, perform analysis, right? This is ArcGIS. So I'm going to zoom out here a little bit more and kind of go over here. You know, we've got GIS software, so we can, of course, perform spatial analysis. So I've got this other building that I've actually displayed the floors of the building as you know, individual colors, so you can see, you know, floor 1 through, I haven't even counted these, 10 maybe. And I've got, for example, a little address. And so maybe I wanted to perform some analysis using this corner address. And maybe I want to figure out from this location where I can see the mountains. So let's say you're building a new apartment complex. You want to be able to charge for apartments based on the view they have, which is actually a common thing, you know, people will do. So I can go to my analysis tab and go to all of my different analysis tools. And of course, you know, this is what Esri does. This is what sets us apart from most other companies, is we have all sorts of different spatial analysis tools for performing geographic analysis. And there's actually more than 1,000 tools now in these sets of toolboxes. So you can go into, you know, any of the different kinds of analysis tools. There's tools for doing overlay interactions with the data, and clipping and selecting, extracting, and that sort of thing. For this, I'm just going to really quickly run a short tool here. So I'm going to run a skyline barrier, and I'm going to open that tool up so you can see how this works. And what I want to do is calculate from this point, where can I actually see the skyline? So let me go back, and I'm going to add an observer point. So that's that address that I just pointed out. I'm going to put in an input, which is my skyline, and then it's automatically going to create an output for me. And I'm just going to run that tool really quick. And this is going to do it in 3 dimensions, right? And so now that I've done that, you can't really see through it. So let me go in and add some transparency to what it did. Oops, too much transparency. And you can see now where that view goes all the way to the mountains versus where you're going to be blocked by all the buildings around it. So just kind of, one of those GIS-y things. And this is really, we have the ability to link all of these tools together into models and perform some really complex analysis. So the other thing is, Nick and I were talking about, what could we show you guys? So there is so much to this software. It's actually very huge and does just about anything you could imagine related to geography and geographic analysis. But we wanted to kind of show you something that would be kind of cool, something that you guys could just immediately pick up on and do. And one of the things that you can do with ArcGIS Pro is make videos, and you can show off your work with a video. And I said to Nick, well, I'll just demo creating a video. And he goes, isn't that going to take a while? And I said, no, I can probably do it in like 5 minutes. And he was like, really? So I'm gonna try to show him now what I was talking about, because this is actually very cool. And I'm just gonna go to my view, and under here I've got something called animation. Animation allows us to animate and create a video. And I'm just gonna add an animation to this this scene that I'm looking at. And it's gonna go in here and it's gonna add basically a timeline, which is empty right now. And I'm going to use a couple of bookmarks that I've already set up to make this easier on myself and zoom around a little bit. So I'm going to start by just going to a view looking straight down at Denver. So we're looking straight down, and I'm going to go to my animation tab, and I'm just going to hit append here. So this is appending, we call a keyframe. And this is going to start my animation with, I'm going to start it from this location. And so I thought that created it. There we go. Okay, so we'll create a keyframe. Then I'm going to go to another bookmark, and actually let me bring up my bookmark manager. Well, let me use this first. So let's go from there, and we'll look at the city from the north. And I'm just going to take a little different view of the city, and I'm going to go back and add another keyframe. I'll append that. And we'll go back to our bookmarks, and let's zoom in down on that Capitol Civic Center area. And so I'll zoom in there and create another keyframe. And I'm just going to go through a couple more. Let's go from the Civic Center to the courthouse. And all I'm doing really is move around my map. And it's thinking about this one. I know my courthouse is over here. There's my courthouse. Whoops. And let's append another one. And from here, let's go out to the stadium and just take a look at that. And that'll slowly kind of draw in. And let me add a keyframe there. And from here, I want to actually kind of come around the stadium and look at it from the other side. So I'm going to just kind of pan around. And if we can get this to draw in. And let's say, how about there? So I'm kind of looking down on the field. Let's add one there. And then let's go over and look at my new building. And we'll add one there. And then let's zoom out. Let's see. It's gonna think for a second.
We're at
Let's
about
go
4
out.
minutes, 30 seconds right now.
All right, we're almost there. And let's zoom all the way out and just kind of look back at the city. Okay. And we'll hit append. All right, so what I've done is I've now created a whole timeline. with what we call transitions between all of these, and you can adjust how you want things to transition. I was just kind of doing the swoopy fly through. But now let me go back to the beginning of my video, and I'll just hit the play button here. And what I've just created is a video of me zooming into the city. It's going to go over to the courthouse, look at that. Then I'm going to go back and look at the stadium. I'm going to kind of fly around and look at the stadium from the other side. And then it's going to zoom out and look at the whole city from the west, and it'll refresh here in a second. So that's all it took to create this video. I mean, did I hit 5 minutes?
I think that's pretty cool myself.
Pretty close. And
But
we
of
can do
course-
other things. Go ahead.
I was going to say I'm the only one unmuted, but I think that's pretty cool.
I think it's really cool. And, you know, we can do all sorts of things with these videos. So I brought an example of one of the videos. Dismiss that we've created using this. And this will kind of give you an idea of some of the things you can do with ArcGIS Pro. And trust me, there's like music to this, but you guys probably can't hear it. We were joking earlier, we think it's from The Lion King. But this was actually made using Pro, and all of the data, all of the content was part of Pro. We kind of, for fun, decided what were some of the really cool things we could do with Pro that we could then just make into a big video. And so we put all this together with that. And of course, you get 3D views. I like the balloons. And it gives you an idea of both, you know, some of the kinds of things we do with GIS, as well as some of the things you can do. This is indoor mapping, which is something we're working on right now. You know, you can see the oil spill from the Deepwater Horizon. Shadows of the pyramids, I thought was really cool too. And you guys all recognize that, I'm sure too. We do a lot with time and range data now as well. So this is showing things changing over time. A car driving down the road was cool too, I thought. It's
Yeah.
volcano.
It's very amazing. It's really cool.
So I wish you guys could hear the Lion King music that I'm hearing. It makes it much more exciting.
Absolutely. David, I'm just curious while we're watching this, how many organizations implement a technology like this? And how many of them are using something like this? I mean, as far as a student's perspective, is getting experience something like this going to be a highly marketable skill as GIS continues to, you know, develop in the future, or you know, how much implementation, or yeah, I guess that I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of taken off. One of the things we've been working on, well, for 3 or 4 years, is 3D GIS, which is something that, you know, we were getting asked for. You know, you're used to 2D maps everywhere, but we're starting to see 3D everywhere. And especially with the, you know, new things happening related to BIM and architecture and those things, we've had basically a huge uptake in people taking advantage of 3D and 3D opportunities, and we're seeing that. Let me stop this. It's just going to keep going. So it's in terms of you know, number of organizations, we have hundreds of thousands of organizations who use our software. We have millions of users of our software out there. In terms of individuals, you know, organizations range in size from, you know, just a mom and pop 2-man shop to you know, entire government agencies. You know, and we have people in, you know, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the people in, you know, the Department of Defense. We have, you know, huge installations of software in all these kinds of organizations, and we're very global. I mean, it's worldwide. You know, the U.S. is a good chunk of our software distribution, but
Right.
everywhere in the world. We have, I think we've eclipsed what's in the US by what's international at this point. And so um, it gets used for a wide variety of things and all over the place. And people keep coming up with new creative ways to use it, which always, it impresses me every time I see it. The things people will come up with that they can do with our software, things we never thought of them using it for. People are very creative, and they'll come up with these just ingenious things. Um, so yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Fantastic. Very cool demonstration. I appreciate you, taking some time out of your day to, join us and show us a little bit more about ArcGIS Pro. It was very cool. I always love that I get excited about this stuff from a recruiting standpoint, just because of how amazing it really has advanced. And I got my degree in geography back in 2010. So, I'm not even that old by any means, but holy cow. I mean, technology is advanced so much, and even in my, time in the industry here. So, we do have one question here, David, that
Uh-huh.
I think you'll probably be able to answer a little bit more. But what are the specs needed for a machine, video card, etc., for some kind of demonstrations like what you just did?
So you definitely want a graphics card in your machine. We have specs online that will tell you kind of what our lowest what our kind of lowest denominator is, and what we recommend, our recommended things. Definitely more RAM is better than less always. We recommend using more RAM. Um, we support a wide variety of video graphics cards. I think I'm running an NVIDIA card right now, but we support just about any hardware in terms of the types of graphics cards. The one thing I would recommend doing with your graphics card is, a lot of computers get shipped with the graphics cards that have not had their firmware updated on them for a long time. And so I would recommend going to the actual graphics card website for that company, for the kind you have, and just download the latest updates for the graphics cards. Just a tip. We find sometimes it doesn't perform as well if they don't have the latest updates to their graphics cards. So that's one thing.
Absolutely. And I know you kind of
But
mentioned we could find that online. Do you know the link off the top of your head, or can you point us in the right direction there?
if you give me like 2 seconds for a Google search, I can give it to you.
Okay, so
Um,
it's as simple as Google searching it.
yep.
Okay,
So
fantastic. What other questions does everybody have here? I see we have a raised hand here, so you're more than welcome to vote if you want to type it either way. And maybe that raised hand was just left over from the ArcGIS Pro question. It very well could have been. And then I'm going to type my email address in here. So if anybody has any questions, they're more than welcome to reach out to me, and I'm happy to kind of, go through that and to address, any questions.
So I just did a search on ArcGIS Pro system requirements, and this is what comes up. And so one is the latest release. We just released it this year, and you can go through, and it's got all of the different recommended settings. And we also have something that's kind of cool. There's a little thing you can run just to check your current computer's compatibility.
Oh,
So you can
fantastic.
just go run this from the web, and it'll tell you, if you can run Pro or not. And so it's got CPU recommendations, memory. We recommend 8. You can run it with 4, and then video graphic cards. Then there's tons of these and things like that. So all of that, here's the video cards, is online and available.
Absolutely. I've got 2 questions here. One, I'm going to ask David real quick, and then I will come back to Anthony Robinson's here in just a second. So the question from Neil is, I know ArcGIS Pro is the latest and greatest, but how long will ArcGIS Desktop be supported for? I keep hearing 2020, but it keeps changing.
Oh, we haven't given you a date when we'll stop supporting it. So that's probably why you hear it changing. There's no end date right now. We have not made an announcement that anything will be the last release. We actually are planning a release right now. We've got 10.6.1 coming out, and we're planning a release after that. So it's going to be around a while. But yeah, it's a lot of it is dependent on how fast our customers move over to Pro, and we've had them moving over actually really rapidly. So that's going to be more of once we get the majority of people who've moved to Pro, start thinking about when we life cycle arc map out. But
Absolutely. How about this
yeah,
one? If you were teaching a class today using Esri technology, would you include using 10.6.1 at all?
this is from Anthony. Anyway, no,
Yes.
yeah. Hey Anthony, how's it going? Would I include 10.6.1 at all? I would not myself. I know there's a lot of people out there still using it, but our adoption numbers, and you haven't seen these, but the Pro has been taking off like gangbusters the last two releases, and if you're really focusing enough to pick one over the other, I wouldn't start with ArcMap.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to quickly go back to his previous question, and that is user conference a good time to meet? Is the Esri user conference a good time for job candidates to meet with Esri recruiters? It is absolutely a great opportunity. So one thing I will say about the way Esri approaches the user conference as far as employment is we do have a jobs in GIS career fair, a jobs in GIS booth at the expo hall, which anybody is welcome to stop by. We always have different recruiters who are sitting there. You can have a conversation with them, learn more about different opportunities, potentially, develop another interview from that, specific conversation. So that is 100% a possibility. What I will tell you is when we do go to that type of a career fair, Esri, we are not recruiting. We're not trying to poach any type of employee from any other government agency. So, if you are, trying to find new employment, it is on you to seek us out, as we will not be seeking you out. It is ultimately what it comes down to. But yeah, it's a great opportunity to meet with different recruiters, and to kind of get a better understanding of the careers available at Esri. I'm taking a look here. I don't see any other questions. Does anybody have any other questions? And if not, that's perfectly fine. I know we went over here a little bit. I apologize. Like I said, David and I had kind of added 2 hours, so we kind of set stuff up for that. And cutting it down to an hour, I think we did pretty good for an hour. I will say on that. But I am always happy to go back and go through career advice if there is an interest. If you guys don't have an interest in that right now, I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm not going to be upset by any means. But we can kind of base it off of that. So I will ask, I guess, one final time, any other questions that we can answer, and then I guess if you are interested in going back through the career advice portion of my presentation, feel free to just raise your hand, and we'll kind of say if there's a couple of people who want to do that. I'm more than happy to kind of run through.
I just want to say real quick, Nick and David, thanks so much for doing this. This has been really helpful, and I have a feeling you'll get some emails from some people. But
it's not the worst thing. That's what we like to hear.
Thanks a lot.
Of course.
No problem. No, these are fun.
All right. So it looks like I've got 4 people who are interested in career advice. David, you're more than welcome if you need to get going. I know it's, probably time to go home and see the family out there. You're more than welcome to, or if you'd like to stick along and, kind of, input some of your personal advice, that's more than welcome. Beth, is it okay to stick around and maybe talk for about another 20 minutes or so?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. And so I will I'll steal the screen back from you, David, and I can kind of run through some different things. And then, I guess, if you guys want, is there any specific portion of career advice that you're most interested in that, you can kind of type in the box, and I can try to focus in a little bit more on that? I see 4 hands, so I want to see 4 answers on what you're interested in. All right, let me get my screen sharing here. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Well, okay, and then okay, where's my chat box? Give me 1 second here. I'm trying to remove everything or change it all up because when you open up your screen, it gets a little bit different. Okay, so still waiting for 4 feedbacks on what you're wanting to hear as far as career advice goes. Oh, okay, so let me move this out of the way.
I don't think anybody has any, well, not so far. They don't have any specific questions. Is
Okay.
is there like a nutshell version, Nick, that, oh, here we get a question from Anthony.
Absolutely. I mostly like my job, but if I was in an interview with Esri, what are some pitfalls I should avoid?
I think Anthony's perfectly happy to fill in all of the questions.
Absolutely. I'm almost wondering if it's an Anthony email after this. Okay. So a couple of ones. Is there a best place to start a new career? Okay, so mostly like my job, but if there was an interview with Esri, what are some pitfalls to avoid? So I guess looking at it from that perspective, when when you're starting to interview with Esri, what we're truly looking for is we're looking for, a personality fit. We're trying to understand if you're going to align with your organization and our overall goals. Whether you're truly an introvert or an extrovert, that's perfectly okay. Everybody brings a different type of personality, and we're receptive to all variety of different personalities. But what we want to see is if you have the, soft skills. So the ability to pick things up, the ability to kind of be resourceful on your own, to prioritize, to kind of look through different things, and develop an own understanding, the ambition, the motivation to, develop your career. We look for a lot of that stuff throughout the interview. So, one of my big suggestions is when you're going through the interview, you want to be yourself. If you get asked a question and you don't know the answer, explain the process of how you would get that answer. And I think that will be, helpful as far as, really nailing that interview. Um, One of the things that I also like to point out is if you're able to get through the interview process and get to the point where you get brought on site for an interview, there will be a lunch attached to that. And just because it's lunch, don't put your guard down. Know that that is still part of the interview, but it's not a formal part of the interview. I've been told that there have actually been situations where sometimes candidates have said some very inappropriate things, and we've actually had to cancel the rest of the interview as a result of that. So just make sure that you maintain your professionalism throughout that process, and make sure you put your best shoes on. Do your research before, and follow up in an appropriate manner. The next question is there a best place to start a career in GIS, especially if someone is transitioning from another career field? Technician or analyst role. So what I will say on that account is here at Esri, and I guess I don't even have to say here at Esri, but when you look at it from an Esri standpoint, technical support is a position that I would highly recommend to anybody starting with the GIS field. The reason being is you're going to get such a variety of experience that it's going to be beneficial whether you choose to build your career at Esri or go elsewhere. And in fact, we see a good people start and build up their knowledge within technical support and then transition and follow their passions, and that's okay. We want you to be successful. Not only do we want you to be successful at Esri, but we want you to be successful in the GIS industry and help push it, forward in whatever capacity you can. Um, Outside of that, it really kind of depends on what direction you want to go with your career. An analyst is really going to allow you to kind of dive in and become more, proficient within GIS. Maybe you could become a GIS developer, which will take you a little bit more on the technical side of things. There's always sales if you want to go down the sales route of things. And so ultimately what I suggest is, as far as starting off your career, the best thing you can do is reach out to professionals who are in the industry and who have a job that you're interested in. You don't have to want to do it with all of your heart, but if you have a curiosity about specific area within GIS, whether that's GIS for architecture or programming or GIS programming for a city government, reach out to people and try to understand a little bit more about what they do, and that knowledge is going to help you decide where that great place to start within the industry is. Um, Another thing that I would kind of bring up about that is, don't get into this mindset where when you start your career, if for some reason, you get that first job offer, you're super excited, but it doesn't seem like it's going to align with your long term. It's okay to pass on an opportunity. You want to make sure that you're starting off your career on the right note and in a way that's going to help you advance to help you achieve your goals that you want to do. I hope that helps. Another question is, mid-career engineer looking for an industry change, and I'm loving my GIS certification education. How might I started in Denver, Esri? So, Chad, my suggestion would be to honestly, my first and foremost suggestion would be to go through our online application process. As silly as that sounds, that's really where it all starts. But outside of that, if I was in your shoes and I was trying to, make the best decision on what I could do, is I would actually try to connect with some of the different people who are in the Denver regional office. I would probably start by going to the Esri user conference, maybe trying to become a student assistant, but going to the user conference, trying to network with different GIS professionals and folks from Esri to try to build up your name and your name recognition out there, and then that allows you to then follow up with that person and say, hey, Catherine or Steve or whoever you talk to, and I'm making these names up, then you can say, hey, I applied for a job at Esri, really interested in the, Denver regional office, like we talked about, what can you do anything for me? Or you can kind of follow up in that capacity. But in my suggestion, I would say, start with relationships, and trying to build them. And if that doesn't work, then you can simply go through the online application process. And if you want to dive in a little bit further, I'm more than happy to set up a call and kind of talk a little bit more about your individual situation. Um, Let me see here. GIS is a career change for me, so I will be looking for my first GIS job. Okay. What will be what would be your recommendation to someone who has a web development background and is now doing the master's in GIS? Um, my recommendation with regards to what? And what I mean by that is it really truly depends on what you want to do. If you want to go into, web development and a blend GIS, I think you've got a great skill set. I really do. And so it's just a matter of finding out the industry and the area that you want to, continue in. I honestly, web development and GIS, I think is a really hot commodity, a really good skill set to have right now. So, it's just honestly finding that right opportunity, applying in the right way, making sure your resume speaks to your skills and all of that. What kind of jobs are in the Boston and Washington locations? I'm hoping to transition from insurance to GIS while staying on the East Coast. Fingers crossed for opportunities, as Esri sounds like a great place to work. Well, Rachel, my fingers are crossed for you as well. I hope everything's working out. So what kind of job opportunities are going to be out there? So Boston, you're going to see more business development. You're going to see professional services. Um, I would venture to say those are going to be the top two main things that you're going to see in Boston. Washington is one of our research and development centers, so you do see a little bit more on the technical side of things. So you might find some, software development roles. You might. I've actually heard that they're trying to build a technical support team in DC right now, so that might be a great opportunity for you to kind of look into that. So DC would be technical support, maybe a development if you want to get into that and it aligns with your background. Insurance, I don't know how far into your transition into GIS you are, but probably a little bit more business development, professional services, and then technical support would probably be your best options for those. Depending upon how east you want to stay, North Carolina is always also on that side of things as well, and that's going to be technical support, a technical support hub, which might be a little bit more receptive, to a transition within your career. And I guess I don't want to say receptive. We're receptive on all areas, but technical support is a great entry level opportunity, especially for someone transitioning from a different industry. There we go. That's how I should have said it the first place. Forgive me. Um, in my opinion, how important is a GIS certification, both in the eyes of Esri and as someone who works in the GIS field? Would be curious to hear Anthony and Beth's comments as well. So Anthony and Beth, this is coming at you. Oh, okay, and I might have missed Neil's question. I'll head back up there and take a look. But as far as the GISP certification, I think it ultimately depends on you. And what I mean by that is, again, going back to what do you want to do? In some instances, some organizations, really value that. They want to see that. Other organizations, it's not as important. And so, my honest suggestion with regards to that is to go out, explore the app or the, areas that you want to get involved in and find out if they regularly look for the GISP. Now, overall, the way I look at it is if you have no problem, spending the capital to get it, it's not going to hurt you, right? But on the same token, if, spending the money to, get the certification, is going to be, I don't want to say a challenge, but is going to be a burden, if you will, then I think it really kind of comes back and to making, or really comes back to making sure that you're, making the right decision based on where you want to go. Let me go back up and take a look at
And
Neil. I
I would just agree
apologize.
with, I would agree with everything that Nick said there. Yeah, exactly. Nothing to add.
Fantastic.
That's exactly what I would have said. I think Anthony's mic might not be working, but he threw in some his answer there too.
Absolutely. Okay, so the other question here is development and programming. I've been in GIS for 7 years and got into program or Python programming about 2 years ago. I've been picking up some Java, HTML5, and SQL. What else could I focus in? Neil, again, it ultimately depends on what you want to do with your career. And I know I keep beating that dead horse. I apologize. I feel bad for that horse. But with that being said, it ultimately depends on where you want to go with your career. If you want to get more into development, then you need to make the decision and say, okay, if I want to get more into development, what skills are going to be most relevant for the opportunity that I'm trying to get to? When you look at it from Esri, if you're trying to get more in development, Python, Java, C++ are probably our top three biggest programming languages. As I've said, if you look at just like a normal GIS job, I usually say the ArcGIS or the Esri platform is a great place to start. And then I say Python, JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. Now, the reason I say that is Python is so related and intertwined with the Esri technology that you almost have to learn one with the other in order to fully get everything that you can out of Esri's technology. And then the reason I put JavaScript, HTML, and CSS in there is, from my opinion, and based on what I've seen, and of course, everybody has a little bit of a different perspective. And so, I'm kind of curious as to what David has to say for this as well. But, you know, JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, the reason I bring those in is because I see, GIS in general kind of becoming a little bit more of a web-based technology. And JavaScript, HTML, and CSS is going to allow you to build web applications. It's going to be able to allow you to create customized web pages and then show and share your GIS information with the world, which I think is going to be a huge, progression point for GIS in the future. And so that's kind of why I see both of those. David, do you have any suggestions? Were you paying attention?
Are you going to send us a resume? We're looking for Python people right now, but just so you're aware, I know I would agree with that. Again, it's what you want to do. I mean, depending on how much you want to go the developer route, we're always looking for Python people and C# people. On my side, Java is always in high demand. JavaScript, all of those, you typically are software development team, the actual core software programmers are going to be, down in the weeds C++ programmers who come with a computer science background. On, that being said, the vast majority of what we call our product engineering staff, our support staff, all of them have some programming skills, all usually related to Python or C#, .NET, what I'm saying. So yeah, I think you're on the right track. It's a matter of how much development you want to do when you decide on your career and where you want to work, related to the types of work you can do with those kinds of things. But it sounds like you got a great start.
Absolutely. We've got 9 new messages. Holy cow. Okay. Let me see. Okay. So I'm quickly running back through to make sure. Okay. How important is it to pick up statistical analysis in R as a way of extending, pre-existing software programming skills? The mix of GIS, advanced data analysis skills seem to be so hot right now. David, do you have a little bit of insight in that? You kind of are a little bit more in the weeds from it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's good. I mean, if you're interested in spatial analysis and have some R experience and Python experience, that is fantastic. Especially right now, the data scientist is like the big hip word right now, right? Everybody's talking about data scientists, and we're building software for data scientists to do this kind of analysis. And It's tied in really nicely with GIS because it's something we've always done. We just had a different word for it, but it's not unusual for somebody coming from GIS to just automatically fit right in with this other world of data scientists. So um, if you've got that skill or you're interested in going down the spatial analysis route, having that skill is important and is very valuable right now. So yeah, I highly recommend you stay in there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I quickly just pulled up a slide here for resume and cover letter advice. In the essence of time, I'll maybe talk for just a couple of minutes. And in fact, instead of even running across the slide, I figured it would probably be even a little bit easier for me to just pull up an example of each and kind of walk you through it. Just from my perspective, and this is what I have seen. I go to career fairs all the time. And so looking at it from a career fair standpoint, what stands out to me, kind of the way I approach things for my wife. She's currently going through a job search right now. I'm helping her, not doing it for her. I want to clarify that right now. But at any rate, so when I start to look for a job, and as you all are either career changers going to get your master's degree, right after our undergrad, but you've got a lot of variety of backgrounds, and so the way I approach a job search is the number one thing I do is I network. I reach out to people who are in the industry, who maybe have a job that I want to have. And the way I approach those conversations is I usually try to approach them not from a, hey, can you get me a job standpoint, but from a, how did you get to where you are today? What type of skills do I need to develop? And I usually start on LinkedIn and I'll reach out to someone and be like, hey, David, really interested in learning a little bit more about what you do and what product management is all about at Esri. Would you be open to would you be open to setting up a coffee conversation with me? And so I usually try to start off with coffee or an in-person conversation. If that doesn't work well, then at that point I'll progress into a phone call and then finally exchanging a couple of messages on LinkedIn in a worst case scenario. But I usually say that, and after I have that conversation, the idea behind it is that you will have reached out to someone at a company who has a job that you could do. And so then you would apply for that job and then follow up with that person. And it's kind of a backdoor into the organization. So that's my number one thing when it comes to job searching. Now, my number two thing is cover letter. And the reason I say your cover letter is because first and foremost, networking can potentially open up doors that weren't there prior to. Secondly, your cover letter allows you to introduce yourself in a way that maybe you didn't get the opportunity, in a way that you maybe did not get to introduce yourself in your resume. So when it comes to a cover letter, I say there's 4 questions that you should answer in every single cover letter. And I've got them, put out here with an example of a cover letter that I helped my wife write for an employment job at General Mills. So the first question is why Esri, in our case, or why any other company for that matter. And what I genuinely want to see is not just a, hey, I want to work for the world leading provider of GIS software, but really dive in and understand what the mission and the goals are of the organization, and then try to align why you want to work for that organization along with their mission. So in this case, the effect that food has in our everyday lives is consistently overlooked, but it's the very thing that has created memories for millions of people worldwide. A truly great meal not only satisfies your hunger, but can be a talking point of great conversation with a friend, can inspire an impromptu trip to your favorite restaurant, or can bring a family together after a long day. This impact is what gets me excited about the possibility of working with General Mills. Now, just to kind of break this down a little bit, what you're seeing is finally the last sentence. This is what gets me excited about the possibility of working at General Mills. So we answered it. Why General Mills in this case? But the rest of this is just brought together based on what General Mills really portrays their image to be to the public. Now, the second question is, what do you want to do? So when you look at a job description, what you ultimately see is you see up at the top a quick blurb about the organization, you see some responsibilities, and then finally you see, the job qualifications. Use those responsibilities to your benefit. Now, what do you want to do? The way I suggest this is use the responsibilities to help you shape this paragraph. So in this case, a passion for global imports and logistics was developed during my time at the University of Iowa and has been reinforced throughout my experiences at C.H. Robinson. Today, the ability to work with international suppliers and logistics teams to ensure the on-time delivery of goods drives me to learn more about the industry. Working with regulations, policies, and compliance creates a fun challenge that keeps this line of work exciting, motivating, and dynamic. Okay, so as we look at this, working with regulations, policies, and compliance is a responsibility that's taken directly from the job description. The ability to work with international suppliers, also taken right from the job description. And then finally, or actually, I will say that those are the top two main things that were taken from the job description. And in fact, they were listed 1 and 2 on the responsibilities. So if we're looking at this, another way to look at it is you are directly correlating the job description and question 2. Now, question 3 is how are you qualified to do what you want to do? So the way I look at this is question 3 should be directly related to your resume, and question 3 should be a response to question 2. So what we've got here is from my time at both Wells Fargo and C.H. Robinson, I've been exposed to situations that demand the ability to be resourceful, the knowledge to prioritize effectively, and handle multiple projects, accounts, and shipments simultaneously. I've used these opportunities to refine my skills and now feel as though these with my communication abilities are some of my strongest attributes. Along with my soft skills, I bring extensive knowledge in customs brokerage and freight forwarding, as well as the regulations, policies, and compliance practices that are necessary for the import of goods globally. Now, what you'll see is regulations, policies, and compliances in question 2, also said in the exact same way in question 3. So all we've done is reiterate and say, hey, I have this experience. You're going to find it on my resume, and this is how it ties to question 2. The last one is simply how are you unique? What makes you different from all of the other candidates? And what I will say by that is I talk to a lot of students, like I said, and a lot of students have different types of work experience. And so to me, that starts to not stand out as much as what it could. So try to find something that really stands you or sets you apart from every other candidate. Maybe that's that you grew up, having your own business and doing GIS from a young age. That's something that not a lot of people can say. Really try to find that unique thing. So here we have a long-time personal goal of mine has been to own an in-home bakery, and I can excitedly say I made this a reality in January of 2017. Being able to work or being able to provide my customers with my baked goods has been empowering and rewarding. By working at General Mills, I can bring my passion for helping people and blend it with my knowledge of international shipping to empower others globally to chase their dreams. So a really unique way of, making my wife's goal of opening a bakery work for her to make her stand out from maybe some of the other candidates. I would venture to say very few people who are interested in global logistics own their own bakery out of their house. So for me, when I look at a cover letter, these are some of the questions that I love to see, just because it really opens up, allows you to talk about the job, put yourself out there, but then really create something that's going to tie you to the job directly. Any questions on that? Or David, do you have any suggestions on a cover letter from what really resonates with you?
Um,
And if I put you on the spot, I apologize.
That's okay. No, I mean, I think you explained it very well. I think that's all of those things are the things that I'm looking for as well when I see cover letters. We do see quite a few. So yeah, if you can, I find if you put in something that shows how you tie in with the job, what you're interested in, and how you've got some background that ties in with it, or something that sets you apart as unique. For that, it's very helpful.
Absolutely. So the last piece of advice I'll leave you with, because I know I talk a lot. My wife has said I'm a very loud, talkative person. So I bless her heart that she deals with my patience. So the last thing I'll quickly leave you with, I'll give you maybe 3 or 4 minutes of just a quick overview on what I look for in a resume and the way I like to see it structured. And of course, as a career changer, it's going to be a little bit different. You've already got some experience built into your resume. So it might be 2 pages as opposed to 1. But, as a student, what I usually like to see is I usually like to see your education up top. The reason being is because it's your most relevant qualification, especially if you are a career changer. One of you mentioned that you're going from insurance to GIS. Well, your education is going to be what shows that you have knowledge in GIS. So I like to see your education up on top. Going from there, I love to see a skill section. Now, the reason I like to see it in this order is first and foremost, when I look at a resume, I look at your education to determine where your fit is going to be within the organization. Immediately, I can tell if you're on a surface level, qualified for the position. If you're getting your degree in physics and you're applying for a job as a technical support analyst, I'm going to be a little bit weary, and I'm really going to try to dive in. But if you're getting your master's degree in GIS and you're applying to be a GIS analyst, then immediately it starts speaking to me like, hey, I'm on the right track already. Going from there, I like to see skills listed secondly. Again, the reason being is because I'm going to quickly skim through these skills and say, okay, immediately, do you have the qualifications that are required to make this, to be successful in this job? And if you do, then that's going to help me, because then I can go down to your experience and I can kind of start to dive in and really digest and say, hey, does this experience make sense? How is this going to play into my, organization and the role that I'm looking to fill? Now, next, you kind of got your experience. And so, I've just kind of put it down here in a format. You can use this format, or if you prefer a different one, that's perfectly fine as well. Now, my hint there is these should be tailored based on the job that's being applied for. So a perfect example I have of this is, let's just say that you currently work at McDonald's and you're applying for a job at Applebee's. You're going to really emphasize your ability to be a line cook. You're going to talk about your ability to be customer service, to work under pressure. You're going to talk about your experience in the food industry, maybe waiting on people. Those are the skills that are relevant to working at Applebee's. But let's say that you currently work at McDonald's and you're applying for a job as a GIS analyst. Being a line cook is now no longer relevant. And so you want to transition a little bit, and you really want to start to talk about and say, hey, I've got, experience working in high pressure situations. I've got great customer service skills as a result of this. And so I guess ultimately what I'm saying is, if you're applying for a job that's out of the industry that your last job was in, focus on soft skills. And if you're applying for a job that's in the same industry, then you can include your hard skills and really kind of, sell yourself that way. A quick question that I have here is, do you think cover letters and resumes with pictures, graphics, or infographics are distracting in an attempt to create a standout document? I really it depends on you. And I'll give you some feedback. Every single person is different. I have some hiring managers in the software development side of things at Esri who have actually said that if a resume is not just black and white and has any graphics on it, they won't even consider it simply based on that. And that throws me off a little bit, but that's how they, that's what they require for their team. Those are the kind of people that they want to see. Other people who are applying for more of our marketing, they want to see excitement. They want to see, graphics based and go from there. So it really kind of depends on the type of role. Now, if you're applying for a straight software developer role, then my suggestion would be a little bit more black and white. If you're applying for, cartography or maybe a little bit more GIS, you can add in a little bit more of that. I would say geography in general, technical support GIS analyst, it's more okay because there is that essence of design, just because you're going to be representing information. I would not go over the top with that. So, let's just hypothetically say if you're putting on your resume, like a skills section, and then you have, like HTML, and then you've got 3 bubbles out of 5 bubbles, and those 3 bubbles are full. I think that's fine. For me, it works really well for the way that I, approach things. But again, everybody is different. So I think you just need to look at the job that you're applying for the organization that you're applying for, and use a best case scenario. What about you, David? Do you have any experience with those kind of resumes?
I have seen every possible resume you could ever imagine, I think. So
Okay.
I don't even know where to start. So we used to, we've had resumes coming in and for years and years. So yeah, I definitely, my opinion is it's all about how clean it is.
Okay.
It's how well organized and how
How well you represent yourself.
how well you represent yourself with it. Because I've seen resumes that have come in that were just they might have been a really good candidate, but because the lack of organization in their resume itself kind of led me to question their ability to organize their work and what they do.
Absolutely.
And resumes have changed over the years too. It's the experience is definitely one of the most important things to me, more than some of the other things. Is if you can explain your experience and what you've done really well, that's very helpful to me.
Absolutely. I got another question here. What about portfolios or websites as a supplemental? And I guess my suggestion or my opinion on that is I think it's fantastic. Now, when you look for a website, you don't want to put together a half-finished website. You want to make sure that it's complete. It looks really nice when I pull it up, because if I see a web page, the work in progress, that's a detriment to your application. get it complete, have it look beautiful, and then go ahead and put it on your resume. So I would say definitely include those on your resume, but make sure that they are up to par with what you want to represent yourself with.
So,
Um,
other thing, well, I don't know if you want me to say this. I probably
Go
shouldn't, but I'm going to say it anyway.
ahead.
For all, make sure you know what's on your social media accounts, because we do always look those up. Um, so, we will do a Google search on people that we're
Yep.
looking at their resumes, and so know what's out there under your Google search. Just
Yep.
you'll find, yeah, we've found some interesting things. So,
Oh, I can only imagine. I would love to sit down and hear the stories that you have
so
come
just
out of.
make sure that you're representing yourself, and it's not just your resume they're going to look at. So, just
Absolutely.
a bit of advice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So I guess just kind of quickly finishing up the rest of the resume portion here. When you're putting together your resume, what I would suggest is putting the most important words to the left of the sentence or towards the beginning of the sentence. When you read in English, we read from top to bottom, left to right. And as a reader, and just kind of to let you know that a lot of organizations, when they're reviewing resumes, they review large amounts of resumes at a time, and so your resume may only be reviewed for a minute, 30 seconds, 2 minutes. So you want someone who's reviewing it to have the easiest opportunity to kind of progress through that. So you can kind of see, if you can see my mouse. So used ArcGIS Online, a web app builder, to create a web application enabling civilians to record potholes. And so the less relevant information on that sentence is enabling civilians to record potholes. You don't want to start with that. You want to start by your skills that you developed on that specific internship or work experience. And so you can kind of use that to manipulate your resume and manipulate your experience to really start to show up. And that way, when a recruiter reads it, they're reading the most important information. After your experience, if you are a career changer, I encourage you to put some of your academic projects, because it starts to show you, or starts to show that future employer that you do have experience and what technologies you've worked with. You can kind of see here the way I broke this down. So we've worked in a group of 3 to determine where homes with a higher probability of lead paint existed within a 100-mile radius, and then created a web application to show off findings. And so I listed the technologies used here, and that's just another way for you to pad your resume and to re-emphasize where you're using these skills. So I think that's fantastic. If you have any publications that are relevant to the industry that you're applying for, go ahead and put them on your resume. Or other major achievements. Were you a speaker at a specific or a presenter at a specific um, conference, or a variety of other a variety of other major accomplishments or achievements that you want to include. That's perfectly fine. If you are a career changer, again, it's more you're okay having a 2-page resume. If you're more of that more recent grad or entry level in your career, a 1-page will normally suffice. So that's just some really quick suggestions on cover letters and resumes if you wanted a little bit there. So I guess what I will just quickly say is, there any other questions that we can quickly answer for you before we let you get on with the rest of your night here?
Thanks again, Nick and David.
Of course. Of
Yeah,
course.
thank you guys.
Very
Yeah, it was
helpful.
a pleasure to join in and talk to the students, and be able to provide them with some feedback and help, and hopefully you guys learned a little bit about Esri.
Yeah, it was really great. Thanks.
Awesome. And then I guess one last thing that I'll quickly do is, that is my email address if you need it again. And of course, Beth has that. So, if for some reason you lose it and you want to get a hold of me, go ahead and send me over a note. Absolutely. Well, I think we will wrap up with that, as long as Beth approves. But
I
we will,
approve.
you're like, I want to go to bed, I approve. No, but fantastic. Again, we really appreciate you guys coming out and spending your night with us, or morning, depending upon where you are in the world. So, hopefully you have a great rest of the night or a great start to your day. And, we look forward to hearing from you, and hopefully, things work out between you and Esri in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks for your help, David.
No problem.